YouTube is full of videos discussing the solvency of native instruments recently, and although I might be slightly late to the party, I don't think that this video is only about native instruments. It's a bit more broad, so I think it's got value even a few months from now when it's old news. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the solvency of native instruments from the perspective of end users, what their products are like, whether they're competitive in the plug-in or hardware markets, but I think a lot of this misses the point, and I want to talk about the deeper issues at play here which affect the industry in a broader way, which I don't feel many people have talked about. So let's firstly start off with the elephant in the room: government. They excel at taking your money. They've got value-added tax, income tax, property tax. There's social security, and that's not a tax, they're contributions. But if you don't want to contribute to their collapsing Ponzi scheme, well, men with truncheons dressed in hats will turn up at your door, and then you might change your mind. Countries such as Italy say, we've got low tax. On our forfettario scheme, you only pay 5%. But then you have to pay IMSS, which is social security, at 26% or something. So once you add it up, you're over 30% anyway. And that's just the income tax and social security. And then you've got all the other types of tax as well. You even got inheritance tax and all kinds of other tax on everything that you want to do. So most people are well aware that they're being taxed into oblivion. But one thing that people don't understand is that after you've paid all of that tax and you combine it all together and you're paying the majority of your money actually going to tax. So even if your effective income rate, you're paying something like 40% once you add VAT to everything that you buy and all the other stuff and the property tax and everything like that, you're paying the majority of your income in tax. But after you pay the majority of your income in tax, central banks come along and then deliberately create inflation. They print money out of thin air and then they give that money to the government in return for IOUs, which the government never intends to pay back. But when you create more money, but you don't create more goods and services in an economy, you don't get to buy more things with that money because there aren't more things to buy. There's the same amount of things as before, but now there's just more money demanding them. So what happens? The goods and services simply get more expensive. So the more money central banks print and give to the government, the more money that you need to pay at supermarkets, at the pump, and for everything that you need to buy. That is inflation. And whether you live in Europe or you have a president who claims to have vanquished inflation, your savings and wages are currently getting nuked in real time because of inflation. So after all of the tax that they already collected, the government then additionally takes trillions more dollars from us through inflation. And look at the price of gold, or silver, or copper, or tin, or platinum, or uranium. Have all of these things just so happened to randomly go up in price all in tandem? Or did fiat currencies just get weaker? Did all the fiat currencies get weaker? What about the Swiss franc? The US dollar has lost more than 80% of its value against the Swiss franc since the 1970s. 80%. Imagine if you'd invested in a stock and lost 80%. Like, that would be bad, right? But that's exactly what the US dollar has done. But the thing is, it's not like the Swiss franc is immune to inflation. It just hasn't fared as badly as the US dollar. Because whereas the Fed is supposed to be independent, the Swiss National Bank actually is independent. Just think about this. What you could buy with 10 quid at the supermarket 20 years ago, and what you can buy now. A tenner barely buys you anything. I can remember a can of tomatoes used to cost 8p in Sainsbury's for the normal can, and that was when I was at university 20 years ago. And now, despite all sorts of government intervention to stop food prices exploding in the UK, canned tomatoes now currently cost 47p at Sainsbury's for the normal own brand can. And that's almost a 500% increase in price in just 20 years since I was at uni. But the thing is, if you look at the government statistics on inflation, they're way lower than that. Why has that can of tomatoes gone up 500% when the government reports it's not gone up anywhere near that? Well, that's because the governments create a bunch of inflation to rob you of your savings and then lie about it. So inflation is a stealth tax. But it gets even worse than that. Because if I want to go out and buy the same kind of shopping that I bought 20 years ago when I was at uni, now I need to have more money to buy that shopping, right? So I need to earn more money. But if I earn more money, that pushes me into a higher tax bracket. And guess what? Now I have to pay even more tax. If you live in a high tax country like in the EU, the UK, the US, just take a minute and look around. All of the trillions of dollars that the government steal from its people, do you think that the government is doing a good job? Is it making it a good place to live? Is it safe? Is it clean? Is it beautiful? Or has it gotten less safe, less clean over the years? Do you feel richer than ever? Do you know who is richer than ever? Nancy Pelosi. What's her salary again? How does that work? I wonder. So let's have a quick recap. Governments take trillions of dollars impoverishing its own people through a variety of taxes, direct, indirect, stealth, and does what with it? Where can I see the fruits from all of this money? In the potholes in the roads? In the rising crime statistics? Or in the private yachts from people who benefit from the government? Where is this ridiculously large amount of money actually going? When you start to ask that question, that's when you start to see what's happening and why so many businesses are going broke, not just in the music industry, but in every industry. And that's because the system is a scam, and companies, corporations, are also victim to the same system because they can't escape the system. If you're a corporation like Native Instruments, you also have to pay a whole bunch of taxes. For example, corporation tax. And who pays corporation tax? Is it the corporation? Who is the corporation? Where can I meet Mr. Native Instruments? Can I speak to him? No, of course I can't, because a corporation isn't a natural person. Only human beings can pay tax. So the corporation tax is actually paid by one of three types of people: the shareholder, an employee, or you, the customer. And you can bet that the shareholders aren't paying it. The idea of corporation tax sounds so appealing to the average person. Let the greedy corporations pay their fair share. Well, no, that just increases the retail price and then you pay the tax. So taxing the rich doesn't work because the rich is an illusion. People who you would call rich have no money on paper because they restructure their profits with debt. So a poor person might have no money, but a rich person often will have even less, aka minus, aka debt. The difference is the rich person has minus with cash flow, whereas the poor person just has no cash. But I believe the most likely reason is that NI were forced, just like many other businesses who understand finance, to offset their business income with huge amounts of debt in order to try and reduce the massive amount of money that they'd otherwise have to pay to fund the cocaine addictions of unelected bureaucrats. And that's the right thing to do. But there's three problems with that. Firstly, they went too far and their debt to earnings ratio is currently over 12x. So to put that into perspective, that's like buying a $318,000 Ferrari when you only earn 25k a year. It's just ridiculous. You can't afford it. And that's going a bit too far. But the second problem is that the government has also bled all of its citizens dry, and now you have no money left to buy enough products from NI for them to afford to pay the interest on their massive debt. And thirdly, they took out a lot of that debt when interest rates were still low. So now interest rates have risen, whatever portion of that debt was not structured around fixed rates will now be way more expensive, and any debt that needs to be rolled over at high rates later is essentially a ticking time bomb waiting to blow up their business. So I don't personally think that Native Instruments is going to make it. Not in the long term, not without some kind of charity case for some rich person stepping in who wants to be a bag holder. Most people understand that girls just want to have fun. But a lot of people don't understand that politicians just want to fly about on private jets, attending conferences, talking about how they can tax people more because of climate change. And that's expensive. And who's going to pay for it? They work in the public sector, so they don't contribute to the economy, so they're not going to pay for it. Who's going to pay for it then? You're going to pay for it. The industry isn't collapsing because of Suno or some AI slop. The only people soulless enough to enjoy AI-generated music attend Davos. The hard truth is that government is the reason our industry is in decline, and everything we love is being forcibly robbed from us as a result of financial suffocation. But this isn't new. Even the Beatles protested in their song Taxman. Why do you think so much music is anti-establishment, from the Sex Pistols to Rage Against the Machine? Right now there's a group of stupid people going around trying to blame all of the world's problems on a specific group group of people as if we were living 90 years ago in Germany. Now, of course that's asinine, but what these dumbass conspiracy theorists don't seem to get is that there's not some room of secret elites cackling about rigging the system. This is just what happens when governments get too big. It's already happened throughout history multiple times. The Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Soviet Union, the Ming Dynasty, the French monarchy. When the costs of funding a massive military and massive bureaucracy start to escalate and start outpacing the underlying economy's ability to fund them, you just get collapse. That's the way it works, and that's the way it's happened throughout history. But the even harder truth is, there is ultimately someone who brought this into effect. Someone is responsible for installing this legal mafia, and this person was promised free things by politicians, knowing full well that politicians are snakes, and they foolishly believed that only rich people would pay for all of those free things that they're offered, like a sheep, dumb enough to ask for protection from wolves. But because this is an audio channel, and I don't talk politics, I'm going to leave it up to you in the comments to tell me, who is the sheep?